The Stormblade class is one of the damage dealers in Blue Protocol Star Resonance. This class later features two unique spec playstyles in the form of a front-loaded burst or a consistent DPS. There are some key nuances to both, which I'll go over in a future video. For this video, I'm going to be focusing on the main class, which is what you're going to be playing for the first few days when the game launches. Hello, this is Bidoof, and I'm going to be giving you guys the full in-depth guide about the Stormblade Main Class. This is a class that I've sunk well over 1,000 hours into in the China version, and have cleared all challenging content with it, as well as top damage for almost every time I'm like in party content. Yeah, I'm self-glazing, but I mean, it's to sell the point to you guys that I do know what I'm going to be talking about to you guys throughout this whole video. Also, if you want to see the text version of this build, check out the guide I made on Maxroll about the main class. Link to it is in the description below. Anyways, before I get into specifics and how to play this class, let me answer a couple of frequently asked questions about this class. These are questions that I observed throughout the months, and I'm happy to answer them here. These won't be written in the Maxroll guide, so listen here. Question 1. Do I need to use my credit card to play this class? This is a common misconception, partly due to people that don't play this class much or at all, making opinions and sharing it among other members of the community. To be honest, I'm also partially to blame, since I didn't really get this guide out sooner, and I'm one of the couple of English Stormblade players that actively plays in China. It doesn't help that I swipe a lot either. However, I play this class fully free to play back in China CBT and fully pay to win on launch, so I have an idea of what it's like playing this class on both sides of the coin. To answer this question, the two specs rely a lot on building the high proper stats on top of knowing how to properly perform your rotation. Since this game is more on the casual side, you can't really expect players to do both of these requirements, resulting in the average damage for this class to be kind of low. A good, properly built player playing this class can top damage in the end game. You don't need to swipe for imagines to pop off with this class, so long as you build carefully, don't waste your resources, and above all, just learn your class. Question 2. This class feels kind of slow to play? I mean, at early game, almost all classes may feel bad to play, especially if you don't know what you're doing at first. Stormblade is going to feel bad for some of you guys to play. Once you start stacking the proper attributes, then it'll start to feel a lot better. And quick tip for Stormblade: besides using the haste advanced attribute to increase your attack speed, Stormblades also use agility to increase it further. The basic attribute agility grants a passive increase to your attack speed. Kind of hidden, but it exists. Both specs build some form of attack speed at the end game, so keep that in mind, yeah. Question 3, katana or scythe? I play mainly katana, but like, I actually would have played scythe if it wasn't so really underpowered back in the day. Scythe seems so cool, but it's too late now since I fully built into katana. It was really bad actually, to where a support spec could do around the same damage. However, after the balance change in late August, the scythe spec actually pulls one of the highest damage in the game, just a little bit under katana. Okay, now let's move on to the specifics of the class. This class has no buffs to provide to the party. While classes like Frost Mage, Icicle spec provides party crit, Wind Knight gives vulnerability and haste, and Marksman gives vulnerability, Stormblade gives absolutely nothing. However, many play Stormblade in China right now in endgame because it's actually the highest damage dealer in the game, so that's how the class makes up for it, just through sheer raw damage. Aside from boasting the highest damage when actively played, it has good mobility, with many of its skills having short animation frames. This class also has good damage mitigation built into the class tree. A talent node in the tree gives both specs a free 20% damage reduction for just using Blade Intent, which is a class mechanic. This is pretty much up 100% of the time during a fight. These all sound good, but there are downsides for this class. Besides previously mentioned that you need to be properly built and the class has no party buffs to provide, you do need raid knowledge or fight knowledge. What this means is that you'll be heavily punished if you waste some long cooldown skills during phases of the fight where it's just unnecessary, like the boss immediately going invulnerable right around the time when you just popped your like burst, you know. For the Moonstrike spec, this isn't that big of a problem since it's more consistent damage, but suffers from other problems like low stagger. Both classes also suffer a bit from high APM, or actions per minute. For Moonstrike, you want to aim for high attack speed for your Thundercut skill, while Iaido Slash, you don't aim for very high attack speed, but you need to perform animation cancels often, leading to higher APM. These are just the general pros and cons. Sounds scary, but trust that this class is pretty easy to pick up over time. Now let's move on to explain the class mechanics. The main class utilizes two mechanics, Blade Intent and Thunder Sigil. For now, all you need to know is that Blade Intent lets you cast Iaido Slash faster. That's your special attack, by the way. If you proceed into the Moonstrike spec, this mechanic enables you to cast Thunder Cut, which is your main damage skill for that spec. TLDR, don't worry about this mech until you choose a spec. Finally, we have your Thunder Sigils. Some special and expertise skills can consume these sigils upon casting to boost their damage. Their damage is increased by 25% per sigil. The main ways you obtain these sigils at this stage are from your expertise skills, which are Overdrive and, well, Overdrive enhanced by the Piercing Slash talent node effect. When you have the talent nodes, then you have a chance of proccing the Piercing Slash whenever you hit a target with your basic attack. You'll see a quick horizontal slash of extra damage when you basic attack, which indicates that you just procced it. The biggest tell though is when the skill in the hotbar is highlighted. The chance of proccing is per enemy hit, meaning it has a very high chance of proccing when attacking a group of enemies. Landing a hit with Enhanced Overdrive instantly consumes Piercing Slash, and you are granted 3 Thunder Sigil stacks. This is important in your rotation, and obviously dealing most of your damage. Now that we explained the core mechanics, let's move on to the talents that you take first. Although you eventually max out the entire main tree of any class, some nodes help you out more than others early on. Okay, so for day 1, you have access to 16 talent points to use for your talent tree. First, build into EI Thunder Dance. This allows your Iaido Slash to deal 2 slashes of damage whenever you cast it with 3 or more Thunder Sigils. Then we pick up Blade Intent, not really an important talent node, only nice when you're at the Moonstrike spec phase. What you really want is after that, the talent nodes after that, which are the Keen Strike and Keen Enhancement, since these 2 talent nodes combined results in a 20% chance of proccing the Piercing Slash effect mentioned earlier in this guide. Finally, take Thunder Whirl to gain 1 stack of Overdrive when you proc Piercing Slash, Thunder Sigil Charm to increase your maximum Thunder Sigils by +1, and Agility Conversion to gain more attack for every 8 points of agility. So for day 2, we have access to 23 talent points, only 7 more talent points from yesterday. So just invest your points into Thunder Sigil Charm to further increase your maximum sigils by 1. Get Swift so you can get more attack speed. And then you will have 1 more talent point. Just put it on 1 random endurance node. Day 3, we finished the tree by building into Overdrive Refinement to reduce Overdrive's cooldown, Swift Blade to get 5% crit damage and lucky damage, and Thunder Charm Blade to mainly obtain the 20% damage reduction whenever you use Blade Intent. The last one is useful later in both spec trees when you're constantly using Blade Intent. For skills to take, you want to take Overdrive, Flash Strike, Raijin Dash, and Volt Surge. You can replace Raijin Dash with Scythe Wheel if you want more single target damage. So essentially, Raijin Dash for mobbing and Scythe Wheel for bossing. Raijin Dash lets you become invulnerable when striking and consumes Thunder Sigils. Meanwhile, Scythe Wheel applies a severe injury debuff on the target upon the last hit and summons a Moonblade that attacks enemies periodically every 2 seconds for 35 seconds. Severe injury only reduces the healing received when enemies try to heal, so it's not really important at all currently. The trick with this skill is to instantly use the dodge skill when you cast it. You only use this skill for the Moonblade summon and nothing else. Overdrive you definitely use since it's the only way right now for you to generate Thunder Sigils. Flash Strike you use for damage for a single target and multi-targets. This skill also gets boosted by Thunder Sigils. Prioritize using this skill over Iaido Slash until you unlock your spec. Finally, you have Volt Surge. This allows you to perform your huge burst rotation with the main class tree. For 12 seconds, you gain extra attack, and any method of generating Thunder Sigils always refills to the maximum amount of sigils you can have. This means 1 normal overdrive under this effect, hitting the enemy instantly replenishes all your sigils. Finally, let's go over the rotation. You have 2 different rotations, your standard and your burst damage rotation. Burst is when your Volt Surge is up, and standard is when it isn't up. Let's start with the standard first. By the way, you can cast your ultimate if you don't need it to group enemies and when you have no Thunder Sigils. If you cast it ultimate, then you use a skill that can consume the Thunder Sigils, which are Yido Slash, Flash Strike, or Raijin Dash. Then, when you cast one of these skills, then proceed back to the standard rotation. So, standard rotation is use your basic attack until you trigger Piercing Slash. If you have reached your 4th stage of your basic attack and didn't proc Piercing Slash, then use a normal overdrive to cancel the basic attack animation. Then continue attempting to proc it. Oh, and also quick tip, you can also cancel the animation of overdrive by using the dodge skill. The only real purpose of overdrive is the very first hit of it. Nothing else really matters with this skill. The faster you can get out of animation, the faster you can generate Thunder Sigil stacks and deal more damage. Okay, and now once you procced it, then use Enhanced Overdrive. Now redo the process and try once again to fish for Piercing Slash proc again with your basic attack. If you're about like 1 sigil off from capping out, then you can just cast a normal overdrive with animation cancel. Once you're at max Thunder Sigils, then you do one of the following. Prioritize Flash Strike if it's off cooldown, use Raijin Dash if there's a group of enemies, or use Yido Slash if none of those other conditions apply. After choosing and using a skill, go back to fishing for Piercing Slash. Now let's go over the burst damage window. Use any Battle Imagine if they're off cooldown, Volt Surge, Overdrive, and then Flash Strike if it's off cooldown, or Raijin Dash if there's a group of enemies. Use Yido Slash if both of these conditions are not met, and then continue using Overdrive, Animation Cancel, Yido Slash for the rest of the duration of the Volt Surge. That seemed like a lot, but let me demonstrate the normal rotations on this target dummy. Okay, so we're at the training dummy. This is going to be almost fully unedited, so I might make some mistakes here and there, all good. We have set our gear to level 40 gear, that way we kind of simulate how it's going to be like at early game. And then we're also going to be using only the main talent node for this test, so no spec builds. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and then I'm going to just perform my rotation. Oh, also, you should use your scythe wheel before using your burst rotation, if you have it up. Pretty much the whole standard damage rotation as well as the burst damage rotation. I might have made a couple of mistakes here and there, but overall that's you guys pretty much get the gist of it. You pop your 4 here, which is your scythe wheel whenever it's off cooldown and when you're not bursting. And then you pop your Imagines, and then you burst with your Volt Surge, and then casting your Yido Slash and Flash Strike whenever you're at maximum Thunder Sigils with Overdrive. Now, finally, we have attributes. Normally, the game defaults to choosing the left side spec as the recommended advanced attributes to run, so disregard the game's recommendations if you're building for, like, let's say the right side spec. For Yido Slash, you want to prioritize crit, then mastery, and finally haste if you can't roll crit or mastery on a specific piece of gear. For Moonstrike, you build luck, haste, and then mastery. In the max roll gearing section, I mentioned versatility. This is a good stat to go for when you reach the end game on these 2 specs. For now, do not worry too much about versatility. For Imagines and skill leveling priority, those 2 will be covered in a later video where I'm going to be going more in depth for each of these specs. If you want to get ahead and know which spec you're going to be investing time into, then look at my recommendations for these in the text guide. Just remember that Imagines and skill leveling are more permanent, meaning that it's harder to recover your lost resources if you aren't fully satisfied with the spec or class in general. So please be sure of which spec you want to invest resources into. And with that, that's it for my main class guide. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to like and sub to help a small YouTuber out, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.